What do all these activities have in common? Such as this, and this, or this, and even this. None of these things are easy, and I believe they're made all the more special because they weren't easy. And that's how I feel about Silksong, a game that provides the same feeling when you finally overcome its immense challenge. Welcome to my review of Silksong, a game that rehashes generational trauma while simultaneously being one of the best games ever made. I would describe Hollow Knight Silksong as the perfect modern vintage game. For me, it blends the original feeling I had playing Metroid on the NES for hours and hours. The highs and even the frustrating lows. Younger gamers will never truly understand or get to experience the frustration that was Metroid 1 on the original NES. Never again will you have to clutch that copy of Nintendo Power tightly, devouring every article, every word, just praying that video game Jesus would answer all of your questions on where to go next, or how to get those missile upgrades. Admittedly, there were all kinds of problems with game design in the mid-80s, but one thing it did do is create a generation of really hardened gamers. Gamers that remember when games had no maps, and everything was dangerous, when you had to write down, with a pencil, on paper, where the secrets were if you wanted to get back to them. It birthed the hardcore, the gamer that craved the pain, the endurance, the challenge, and the glory of overcoming impossible bosses. It made us look down on the soft, weak gamers of today and say, back in my day, games were actually hard. We were gods, the OGs, the hardcore, the real gamers. And then Silksong comes along and reminds us of what once was. And we realize that now, we're all over 40 and we don't have time for this shit anymore. Not since Elden Ring has a game so thoroughly captured my attention. I was a fan of Hollow Knight, but not a rabid true believer. Don't get me wrong, Hollow Knight was a wonderful game, so when Team Cherry announced the DLC Silksong, I was like, oh good, more Hollow Knight. Then somehow 7 years went by, and Silksong became myth, and then myth became legend.
And some things that should not have been forgotten were lost. History became legend. Legend became myth, and for 2,500 years,
Silksong
passed out of all knowledge.
And the internet went insane. And then finally, on a random day, Team Cherry poked its head up and said, hey, game's done, enjoy, here you go. And the internet once again went insane, and crashed. Playing Silksong is like dealing with the 5 stages of grief. So allow me to take you through the 5 stages of Silksong. The first several hours are great. You think, this is so easy. Why, I will get through this game no problem. And then you come up against your first real challenge, and this was mine. But I'm good at video games. I played Metroid. Yeah, it's the controller. It's gotta be the controller. The controller's just laggy, that's it. Yeah, it's this dumb controller, that's the problem. But we all know the problem.
Fadastama. Cadestre. Yanara.
I swear, she was saying this directly to me. But then comes the immovable object. Attempt after attempt after attempt. And you're no longer in stage 1. The rage sets in, and my bloodlust blinds me over and over and over again until I see red. Memories of millennia come rushing back. It gets to the point where I start making deals with myself. I just need to kill the small creatures quicker. Yeah, that's the problem. Once I kill the small creatures, then it's all good. I'm just not killing them fast enough. I'm cold. So alone. With reruns of Ren and Stimpy playing in my head.
Didn't you hear him? Didn't you see the crowds?
Can't you see I'm good enough? I am. Till finally, you remember, oh yeah, there's an entire game to play, and you head out to explore, and get stronger, and accept that you'll have to come back later. And once I accepted that I'm no longer a teenager, and accepted that maybe, just maybe, I didn't have to play the game like some hardcore streamer bro, I could finally enjoy the ride. And what a ride it was. Silksong is an incredible piece of art, and there's no higher honor I can give a game than calling it a piece of art. Where Hollow Knight's protagonist was lonely and silent, Hornet is sassy and sarcastic, a fun, strong-willed character determined to discover the identity of her captors and the mysteries of this new kingdom, Farloon. Immediately, the first thing you notice is how much faster and agile Hornet is compared to her predecessor. Even with no dash ability or any upgrades, the difference is noticeable. The ability to grapple onto ledges makes an enormous difference in how you navigate the world, letting you effortlessly climb around like you were born to do it. But once you unlock all of Hornet's moves, you can move through the world at top speed, speeding past enemies and platforming like a god. When I went back to play Hollow Knight, it just felt very slow. The ability to run by holding down the dash button really kicks things up a notch, and it feels very freeing, and makes Hollow Knight's movement feel very slow by comparison. Most people move through Hollow Knight's world by constantly dashing just to get places faster. And thankfully, Team Cherry has created a bafflingly large world to use all these abilities in. The map is absolutely enormous. 60 hours into the game and I was still finding new areas I hadn't been to. Each area has a distinct theme, and visually they all look quite different. The artwork is stunning. Hollow Knight was a gorgeous game, but it definitely suffered from being the firstborn. Color palettes were a bit more muted, and it lacked the pop that Silksong displays. Team Cherry's approach hasn't changed much, with characters being hand-drawn and animated, and it all comes together in a vibrant, spectacular presentation that's just a joy to look at. The attention to detail is amazing. And that's a good thing, because if you're like me, you'll be looking at this world for a long, long time.
Captain's log. I'm tired. So tired.
Because make no mistake, Silksong is very hard. Going back and playing Hollow Knight just confirmed how much harder it actually is. Nearly everything in the game does 2 masks of damage when you run into them, with bosses sometimes doing 3 masks of contact damage on top of their attack abilities. So you really, really want to try to avoid getting hit. But that's the crux of the game. You will get hit. A lot. And die. A lot. In this regard, Silksong actually has a lot in common with Dark Souls. Death is inevitable, and often. The internet complained about some of the boss runbacks, but there were only a couple that really stood out as painful or annoying. And just the mere mention of bile water is enough to make some people catatonic.
I'm hurting.
Now, having brought up bile water, there's a bench at the very bottom of Bile Water's map, and the boss is at the very top of the map. And if you find it, there's a secret bench about 2/3 of the way between the boss and that first bench. I, however, did not find that bench until after I beat the boss, and thus spent 10 to 15 minutes, on average, climbing my way back up just to do another boss attempt. Thankfully, this was a boss I only had to do about 10 times before I beat him. I'll be okay. The gameplay loop boils down to learning a boss's moveset and adapting your playstyle and your abilities to beat them. Easier said than done, of course. But it's the way that Silksong brings all the elements together that really makes this feel special. The art, the sound, the music, all coalesce to make the payoff of downing a boss one of the most satisfying moments in gaming. From Software understands this concept very well and uses it to great effect with all of their game design. I believe this attitude towards difficulty is why so many people call Hollow Knight and now Silksong the masterpieces that they are. Team Cherry understands that without struggle, the reward just doesn't feel as good. But just being hard in and of itself isn't the accomplishment. Any developer could make their game nearly impossible. No, it's finding that balance between frustration and progression. And Silksong walks that line very well. Silksong may be hard, but it isn't too hard. It can even be finished without fighting some of the more challenging bosses, or fully conquered for those like myself willing to subject themselves to the pain required. I finished the game with a 100% completion rate, and many of the things that I did to get that, you don't need to finish the actual game itself. It's commendable to the game that I felt like I wanted to keep going and I wanted to complete the game. Now while Silksong is a really hard game, Team Cherry has given you a ton of different options to get through the game and to make it easier on yourself. There are over 50 different tools you can find that dramatically change the way the game is played. And in addition to that, Hornet can change up her entire moveset by changing the crest that she's currently using. Each crest has a different number of tool slots and ability slots, so you can really customize your playstyle. And you can craft a playstyle that works best for you. If I had one major criticism about the game, it's how the 3-act structure is presented. It's possible to miss the entire 3rd act of the game and not even realize it. I beat Act 2 and then the game just ended. I had to go look up the specific steps in order to trigger the ending that leads into Act 3. I wish this was a lot clearer, or that it wasn't reliant on whether you'd done enough steps in a random quest chain to activate it. But overall, that's a fairly minor complaint when the rest of the game is so incredibly fun and engaging. At its core, Silksong is a story about Hornet, learning her place in the world, and where she comes from. It's a poignant story about adopted families and becoming more than what you were meant to be. All told with environmental storytelling and just a handful of beautifully crafted cutscenes. It's engaging without ever being overbearing. Originally slated to be a DLC for Hollow Knight to becoming a full-fledged sequel, Silksong is a masterpiece on game design. I think Silksong will be remembered very fondly and age very well as the years go on. And it's a game I consider to be a true masterpiece. A true work of art in every capacity.